Wow.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
can start from.
Before all this was hanging down. Really good. Anyway, I'm going to read a chapter called Transformers the Movie. It deals with the movie that came out in 1987, was it? 86? Hey, have you heard? They're going to make a movie of the Transformers. Wow, exciting news. All of us, Prime, Megatron, Starscream, me, appearing on theater screens all across the country, 20 feet high, our voices booming out of surround sound speakers in THX and Dolby Sound. Pretty cool, huh? And holy smoke, Orson Welles, legendary filmmaker and Hollywood auteur, was going to voice one of the characters. Oh, ecstasy. Oh, joy. Oh, eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. As it turned out, things were a little less thrilling than they at first appeared. For starters, most of the regular cast would be relegated to minor roles, while a string of B-list celebrities received top billing and the lion's share of screen time. The plot, to me, seemed convoluted, confusing, and highly episodic. Within the first 10 minutes, Spike would utter a 4-letter expletive. And worst of all, horror of horrors, they were going to kill off Optimus Prime. What the hell was this all about? What happened to our show? The show we all knew and loved. The show we had helped to create. The show that allowed us to pay our mortgages. Distressing news, certainly. But I took it philosophically. It was a movie, after all, and I'd never been in a movie unless you count my work as an extra in Airport 75, and why would you?
Why not?
Plus, a recording with Hollywood legend Orson Welles, and Eric Idle, one of the Pythons, and Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock himself. Well, okay. That took some of the sting out of things. This might end up being a satisfying experience after all. As it turned out, my recording session for the movie was anything but memorable. Apparently, I wasn't available the day the main dialogue was recorded. Remember, there were a lot of shows being produced at that time. So my lines were recorded about a week later, after the main group had assembled. It was just me, all by my lonesome, in an otherwise empty recording studio. We were in Wally's larger studio, Wally Burr West, and I just remember looking up and thinking that Wally seemed like he was miles away up in the booth. It was the first time that I'd seen the full script, and frankly, I was disappointed to see that Bumblebee didn't have much to do in the film. He has a few scenes with Spike at the beginning, then disappears completely until the big dance number at the end. Plus, I missed my fellow actors. Where was Mike Bell with his trenchant comments? Or Frank Welker with his bag full of sounds and voices? Or Chris Latta gesticulating wildly as he rasped out Starscream's lines? Nowhere to be found, that's where. They'd all completed their work a week before. The total time I spent in the recording booth was about 20 minutes. Oh, and Orson Welles? Well, I'm sorry to report that Mr. Welles did not participate with any of the other actors in the group recording. His lines were recorded with him alone, with only Wally, the sound engineer, and a couple of the producers present. A few of the cast asked if they could be allowed to sit in just to watch Mr. Welles work, but they were told, no, sorry, that wouldn't be possible. Mr. Welles was adamant it'd be a closed set. Too bad. Many of us would have paid hard cash for a chance to watch Wally Burr voice direct Orson Welles. There's a footnote here. Orson Welles died shortly after recording his lines, and I'm almost certain it was Michael Bell who started the rumor that Wally killed him by demanding too many retakes. The movie debuted on August 8, 1986, and you were right. And by the end of its 5-week theatrical run, had taken in a total of $5,706,456. Adjusted for inflation, that translates to $11,814,249 in 2011 dollars. Not exactly a runaway hit, but considering the film's budget, the producers probably made out okay. Reviews for the film were mixed to bad. Charles Solomon of the Los Angeles Times said, quote, "The movie is a toy commercial that the Sunbow Marvel studio has twisted and stretched into an 86-minute animated film." The New York Times' Karen James opined, quote, "While the film may captivate young children, the animation is not spectacular enough to dazzle adults." And in my favorite quote of all, an obviously baffled Carrie Rickey of the Philadelphia Inquirer said, quote, "The effect of watching Transformers is like being at an intergalactic Super Bowl without rules and scorecard to figure out who's doing what to whom." But despite the tepid response from the critics, thousands of Transformers fans showed up to watch the Autobots and Decepticons in their big screen debut. And no doubt many of those fans were not a little shocked and surprised at the casual dispatching of so many of their favorite characters from the TV series. Not only was Optimus Prime done away with, but Megatron, Starscream, Brawn, Ironhide, Prowl, Ratchet, Wheeljack, and Windcharger were all sent to that big garage in the sky. Why? What possible reason could there be for decimating half the cast of a successful television series? Simple. Season 3 was coming up, and room had to be made for a whole raft of new toys. And that, to me, was the main problem with doing a TV series based on a toy line. Rather than serving the story, the toy line came first. No thought was given to the loyal viewers who had developed an affection for these characters. No, it was, we got a whole slew of new toys coming out, so we better clear the shelves. We gotta make room for them. Now, don't get me wrong, I was grateful that Hasbro saw fit to allow Bumblebee to survive the movie massacre, but still, from a purely artistic standpoint, it disturbed me. Matter of fact, it still does. Over the years, the film has taken on a kind of cult status. Midnight screenings midnight screenings and convention showings draw large crowds. Fans still cheer when their favorite characters make an appearance and the favorite line is spoken. The movie moves quickly, it's action-packed, and is almost psychedelic in its color palette. All the main characters are present, however briefly. And as far as the soundtrack goes, if you're a fan of 1980s heavy metal... Take two! If you're a fan of 1980s heavy metal techno-pop, kiddo, this is the film for you.
Awesome.
So that's just one of the 10 wonderful chapters in Bumblebee and Me that will amuse you and depress you all at the same time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.